The Business Buzz.
Good evening and welcome to the Business Buzz, where we focus on news and activities centered around the national and global economy. I'm Tharuni Karunaratna. Let's start off with the headlines for tonight.
Facet celebrates 30 years. The deep dive with Ajwad Dean. New microfinance and credit regulatory authority. Cinnamon celebrates 10 years. Oil prices stable, gold price slips. What's of future economic policy?
We start out with some market news. Sri Lanka's long-running gem and jewellery exhibition Facets celebrated its 30th year this week, showcasing the sparkling industry to the outside world.
Facets 2024 drew some 8,000 visitors to the three-day event that was held from the 6th to 8th of January at the Cinnamon Grand. It was organized by the Sri Lanka Gem and Jewellery Association in collaboration with the National Gem and Jewellery Authority and the Export Development Board. The event was declared open by Minister of Industries and Health Ramesh Patirana, who was the chief guest.
We know the Sri Lankan people, not only those who are involved in the gem and jewellery sector, but also all the industrialists are going through a turbulent time, economically, socially and politically. We're having constant discussions with the stakeholders in relation to certain measures. As I mentioned last year, we were trying to liberalize your industry as much as possible. So whatever the stringent measures that we're adopting by the Gem and Jewellery Authority are much lesser now. On the long run, we were having discussions with the State Minister, who's the chairman of the Gem and Jewellery Authority, how best we can go ahead in relation to certain concepts, including developing a free trade zone covering this subject.
Other invitees included State Minister for Primary Industries Chamara Sampath Dasanayaka, Chairman of the National Gem and Jewellery Authority Viraj De Silva, and the Export Development Board Dr. Kingsley Bernard.
Facets Sri Lanka 2024 has many notable features and includes for the first time in the history Masterpiece Pavilion and the Sustainable Pavilion, the first of its kind anywhere in the world. Be it an exporter or importer, Facet plays an important role in linking various parties so that they may reap the benefit of various opportunities the local and the global market have to offer. Facet Sri Lanka's 30th show will accommodate nearly 100 exhibitors showcasing gem and jewellery. Over 8,000 visitors are expected to visit the show, including a large number of high-profile and influential buyers around the world, making it the biggest event in its 30-year history. We urge the policymakers to engage the industry and deliver viable set of policies that will help the country earn foreign exchange in billions of dollars.
Facets 2024 featured 100 exhibitors. A special feature was the inclusion of several pavilions to showcase Sri Lanka's gem and jewellery legacy. They included the Gem Pavilion, Premier Jewellery Pavilion, Sustainable Pavilion, Sapphire Masterpiece Pavilion and the SME Pavilion.
Well-known fashion designer Namal Balachandra opened a new exclusive store at Havelock City last week.
The Queen Kueni Artisan Heritage Showroom was ceremonially opened on the 4th of January in the presence of about 150 guests. The showroom features Namal Balachandra's exclusive international fashion brand QK, which stands for Queen Kueni, with bridal dresses, suits, shirts, shoes, cufflinks, ties, bows, leather products and ladies' clothing. The opening was a grand event with a fashion show that featured 32 models flown in from Italy, showing off bridal dresses, suits and casual wear. The showroom is located on level 20 of the Mireka Tower, the new business tower of Havelock City. The opening was followed by a fashion show for the public at the Havelock City Mall the next day.
Tonight on The Deep Dive, Niresh Eliathambi speaks with Ajwar Dean, chairman of the Sri Lanka Gem and Jewellery Association.
We are here today with Mr. Ajwar Dean, chairman of the Sri Lanka Gem and Jewellery Association. Welcome, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Niresh.
Could you give us an overview of the industry as it stands today and the sustainability and the challenges of it?
This is one of the oldest industries from 2,300 years old, and it has been going through good times in the past. And in 1971, Dr. N.M. Perra, when he was the socialist minister, finance minister, he opened up this gem industry to export and getting the required dollars. From there onwards, it was open. A lot of dealers got into this industry, and for the last 50 years, it's from 1971, the business has been good. There's no complaints until now. So, we have gone through challenging times like the LTT war, COVID times, the 2008 financial crisis. We have had, but we have been very resilient and strong-willed to see that this industry flourishes and goes through. Soon after COVID, we were all thinking what will happen to the industry because the lockdown and people can't travel. But luckily, thanks to the Almighty, this business survived, and it got even better after COVID. The demand was quite strong, especially from the brand names, and we are quite happy with the outcome after COVID.
Could you tell us a little bit about the present date challenges and what you see in the next few years?
Now with this VAT being introduced, it's from 0 to 18%. We were exempted from VAT, and we were not taxable, because being the nature of this business, which is easily, you can always resort on official mines. The governments for the last 50 years at that time, prudently gave all the incentives, exemptions to bring back the dollars into the country, and which was happening. But now with the VAT being and presently our exports depend on 70% of foreign source. That is 2 out of 3 exported are of foreign origin. And with this VAT imposed for foreign imports, this will be a big hindrance for our industry to go forward. And we have made a lot of suggestions to the finance ministry and to the relevant line ministers to see that we get some sort of, we are also civic minded, we also have to pay tax, that is has to be a reasonable amount, and by adding this 18% to our imports, we are not being competitive with other countries. Like Thailand, there's hardly any tax, there's a VAT on local sales, while India gives a 2% incentive to all exports and a 3% tax on jewelry sales in India. So likewise, we have made some proposals to the government, and we hope something will come out of it.
Is there any fear that foreign principals would come in and compete with our local industry?
The possibility is there because the state is looking at giving mineral rights for mining to foreigners. So we hope that it won't be extended to the gemstone industry, as there is 1 million people depending on this. From the miner to the dealer to the broker to the exporter even right up to the tourist driver who gets a commission on sales of jewelry. So there's 1 million people living on it, and if this industry goes to the hands of foreigners, and there have been many attempts by foreign multinational companies to do mining here in Sri Lanka, which we have thwarted and stopped it with great difficulty. So we hope the state won't think of extending the mineral rights which they are giving to foreigners to the gemstone industry. Even to the plantations, there's quite a lot of good material which has to be mined yet, and we are thinking of not just ourselves or the future generations to come, so that we have enough material to take this industry through for many thousands of years ahead. We are countries blessed with gemstones in most parts of the island, so I think best if this gem mining rights are not being given to any foreigners.
You spoke of the country being blessed in most parts with gemstones. How sustainable is it if one were to mine for another 30 or 40 years? Would it be an issue?
Certain mining areas, they are given for machinery, backhoe mining. So those mines within 3-4 months that is exhausted. But there is riverbed mining, artificial mining, artisan mining. So those mines are still in force, and there are many other areas which are not being identified by the authorities. There was a survey done many years back, but we don't know what happened to that report and what were the findings. It was not revealed to us. But I would suggest at this moment for the Geological Survey Mines Bureau or some authority to take another survey of what's available under the ground here. And there are, like, even in Ratnapura area, Goda, Mahatale, Bogowantala, Kataragama, there are so many areas where mines, gemstones are still available and not mined.
How large is the industry in terms of turnover, in terms of exports?
We do about $500 million with all the restrictions placed on us. That is in gem exports. And in tourist sales also, there's easily another 500 million of sales happening. There's like 4,000 jewelers and shops all over the island. And this is another reason that we have requested for this some sort of incentive for the VAT, as we have to increase the spending of the tourist. So the tourists, just at the moment, their spend is just $100 or $200, and we need them to spend more money in the country. So selling jewelry is another way of them getting their some sort of income from them.
Do you see the gem and jewelry industry in Sri Lanka playing a greater role in the economic recovery of the country?
Very much. if the right incentives, right terms, regulations are relaxed, there is it can be a major income earner to the country, but not with the present regulations that have been done in the last 4 or 5 months. At the moment, is facing a very precarious situation, but we can be given the right conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ajwaddin, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Gem and Jewellery Association.
We now take a short break. We'll be right back.
The Business Buzz.
Very little hope.
Sri Lanka has a unique position of being the absolute last in the world in terms of revenue to GDP.
You need to get rid of corruption, then only we can think about at least some rationale in the development of a country.
As a party, we are planning to organize a lot of protest campaign and some meetings and demonstrations, all kind of things from January.
When the purchasing power, what we call the aggregate demand, goes down, it will have a negative impact in the economy as well.
Face to Face, Newsfirst political talk show, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. on TV1.
So these
Sri Lanka's first ocean-related docuseries. Sri Lanka.
So these are the three industries that, very interestingly, the industries that brings in dollars to this country, right? The tea, the garment, and the migrant workers.
There was a time when the plantation child was seen as a child who was groomed to be a domestic worker. But then things have really changed.
When one domestic worker migrates, I think an employer pays to almost 800,000 to 1 million rupees for one domestic worker.
Not only participation, becoming politician, but also exercising your voting rights as a citizen of the country.
Creating public awareness is one of the important things that should happen. And then the workers need to be organized, and then facilities given for them to sort of organize themselves and demand for their rights.
Face the Nation, Wednesday nights at 9:30 on TV1.
The Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz. Sri Lanka's parliament is set to consider the new Microfinance and Credit Regulatory Authority bill, according to State Minister of Finance, Shahan Semasinghe.
State Ministry of Finance Shahan Semasinghe said that the new Microfinance and Credit Regulatory Authority Bill will regulate the money lending business and the microfinance business to provide protection for. It will repeal the Microfinance Act No. 6 of 2016 to provide greater protection to the public. The new authority is a proposal by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as Minister of Finance and has been approved by the Cabinet. The State Minister has said that although there are about 11,000 microfinance institutions operating in the country, only 5 of them have been registered.
Now, remittances from overseas climbed sharply in 2023, which analysts attribute to many more people using official channels to transfer their funds.
Remittances coming into Sri Lanka through official channels went up by 57% to $5.9 billion in 2023 from a mere $3.8 billion a year earlier. This performance in 2023 was helped by an improved exchange rate of the rupee, following much better monetary policy by the central bank. Last year's remittances recorded the highest inflows from Sri Lankan expatriates since the pre-COVID era in 2019. Following a disastrous run on the rupee in 2022, Sri Lanka's external sector started to stabilize in September 2022 when the central bank started to run balance of payment surpluses after ending money printing. The central bank's previous policies had triggered parallel exchange rates outside the formal banking system, which offered much higher rates than the banking system.
Let's take a look at some of the corporate events in the news. Cinnamon Air recently celebrated 10 years of operations across Sri Lanka.
With its terminal at Bandaranaike International Airport, Cinnamon Air provides invaluable support to the country's tourism industry. Its fleet currently consists of 3 Cessna 208 aircraft, 2 of which are amphibious float planes that can land on either land or water. Cinnamon Air operates scheduled flights and charters to all tourist destinations, including the Hill Country, East Coast, Southeast Coast, Northern Province and the Cultural Triangle. It has served 80,000 customers in a decade of service.
Union Assurance has appointed Senath Jayatilaka as its new CEO with effect from the 1st of January 2024.
Union Assurance has appointed Senath Jayatilaka as its new CEO with effect from 1st January 2024. He previously served as Deputy CEO and Chief Distribution Officer. Union Assurance is a subsidiary of the John Keells Group. Senath began his journey with the group in 2007. Prior to joining Union Assurance, he held the post of CEO of John Keells Logistics Limited.
Bank of Ceylon has been named Bank of the Year Sri Lanka by the prestigious Banker magazine of the United Kingdom. It was also listed among the top 1,000 banks in the world for the 12th consecutive year.
Bank of Ceylon has been named as Bank of the Year Sri Lanka by the prestigious Banker magazine of the UK. It was also listed among the top 1,000 banks in the world for the 12th consecutive year.
Sea Line Holdings Limited has appointed retired Admiral Pial de Silva as its deputy chairman and Natasha Egodage as its group director.
Admiral Pial de Silva served as the 23rd Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy and was subsequently Sri Lanka's ambassador to Afghanistan. He holds an MBA in Human Resource Management and a Master of Science in Military Science. Natasha Egodage is also the CEO of CMED Healthcare Services Limited and is a consultant to the Asia Pacific Institute of Information Technology. She also sits on the boards of Dankotu Porcelain PLC and Suasavana Hospitals Limited. She holds an MSc in Economics from the University of Texas at Austin and an MSc in Mathematical Modelling from the University College London. Link Natural Products Private Limited was honoured with several major awards recently. They included Best Exporter Herbal and Ayurveda at the Presidential Export Awards and the Gold Award in the large category in pharmaceutical products at the 31st Annual Export Awards.
Now here's a look at some of the latest global prices. Now, global crude oil prices have remained stable so far this year, with fears of instability in the Middle East being balanced by increasing supply in both OPEC and non-OPEC countries.
Brent crude futures fell below $78.5 per barrel on Tuesday, while West Texas immediate crude futures fell below $73.5 per barrel, paring gains from last week as Saudi Arabia announced that it will cut key crude prices for all buyers in all regions for February amid a softening demand outlook. Rising oil supply from OPEC and non-OPEC producers also raised the likelihood of a market surplus this year. Output from OPEC rose 70,000 barrels per day in December to 27.88 million barrels per day. In the US, the number of oil drilling rigs increased, with analysts forecasting more than 20 additional oil rigs this year. Meanwhile, escalating geopolitical tensions in the Middle East continued to support oil prices, with flashpoints in Iran and the Red Sea adding to the fighting in Gaza, the Israel-Lebanon border and the West Bank.
Global gold prices have dropped significantly so far this year on reduced demand, driven by revised expectations on interest rate policy by the US Federal Reserve.
Gold prices slipped to around $2,040 an ounce on Tuesday, extending losses from last week as investors braced for key US inflation data this week that could influence the outlook for Federal Reserve monetary policy. Last week, gold fell nearly 1% amid a rebound on the dollar and treasury yields as traders scaled back expectations on early and steep interest rates cut from the Fed this year.
We now head for a short break. We'll be right back.
The Business Buzz.
නව වසරක් නව නායකත්වයක් නව ජයග්‍රාහී ගමනක් ශ්‍රී ලංකා සිම්බාබ්වේ එක්දින සහ T20 ක්‍රිකට් තරගාවලිය ජනවාරි 6 වෙනිදා සිට 18 වෙනිදා දක්වා පිටිය වටකොට නැගෙන ජයගොස සජීවීව විඳින්න TV1 නාලිකාව සමග රැඳෙන්න.
If the people of this country still opt to vote for the Rajapaksas and the SLPP, then we have very, very little hope.
Sri Lanka has a unique position of being the absolute last in the world in terms of revenue to GDP.
You need to get rid of corruption, then only we can think about at least some rationale in the development of a country.
As a party, we are planning to organize a lot of protest campaign and some meetings and demonstrations, all kind of things from January.
When the purchasing power, what we call the aggregate demand, goes down, it will have a negative impact in the economy as well.
Face to Face, Newsfirst political talk show, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. on TV1.
The Business Buzz.
Welcome back to the Business Buzz. It is now time for Food for Thought, where we give you something to think about.
The government of Sri Lanka declared itself bankrupt nearly 2 years ago, leading to an almighty economic disaster. Since then, a new president and cabinet have managed to supply a few of the basics, such as fuel. This tiny but valuable respite has been achieved by taxing the people very heavily and by borrowing further from various credit lines such as India, the IMF, ADB and World Bank. But what of economic recovery? Right now, there seems to be no solution on the horizon. The economy, after shrinking drastically for many months, is now stagnating. So where's the spark that will blast it forward? In this election year, this is the main question that every political party needs to answer. What's the economic strategy for the next year, the next 3 years, and the next 5 years? Which industries are going to be the thrust industries? Tourism, apparel, tea, rubber and gemstones are doing what they can and cannot be expected to do much more. We can expect more remittances from our overseas workers, but that's not going to grow dramatically either. Right now, political parties are posturing. Many other horse deals that are taking place behind closed doors. Politicians are leaping from one party to another. Alliances are being formed and will continue to be formed, some expected, some unholy. But beyond all, it is not about who will sit in the president's chair in 9 months' time or which 225 will be in parliament. It is how they'll handle the economy that will matter. That is the billion-dollar question.
We'll leave you tonight with words of wisdom of a global leader, as we always do. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people on the planet, said, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." And that's all the time we have for you tonight. For the Newsfirst and Business Buzz team, I am Tharuni Karunaratne. We'll see you again same time next week. Until then, take care and good night.
The Business Buzz.